All right, so today we'll be looking at building on. I didn't want to say building on the rock because building on the rock would be like Christ is the rock. So building on rock, something a strong foundation basically. We're looking at financial foundations for the first 2 years of marriage. Um, Marriage is not only spiritual and emotional; it is financial, right? It's heavily financial. Many young couples in Nigeria start marriage with love, but without structure. So there is that thing they tell us, ensure you love the person. Yep, it's good. You can start with love, but you also need structure. Um, for those of us who have been married for over a decade, you discover later on that there is a thin line. You get to a point where there will be a thin line between love, companionship, right? You don't even know if you love the person or not. You just know this person, you always want to be the person. This person is part of you. It's just there. So that love, that shacking love of before marriage dissipates and matures and grows into something bigger. Now that something bigger looks like ugu plant. If you want it to grow properly, you put some structures around it so that it can spread, and if else it just grow widely, and there comes trouble. So marriage with love is good, but marriage without structure is problematic. And especially within the first 2 years, they are very critical because they are the foundational years. They set the tone and pace um, for peace or pressure, right? They actually set the tone. Uh, Many times I've had to counsel with people who are having marital issues, and you could trace some of those issues to discussions they did or did not have pre-marriage, or they did or did not have within their first 2 years of getting married. So today we'll focus on very practical wisdom that help couples avoid preventable stress, a strong financial foundation um, that can support strong marriage. That's what we'll be looking at today. Right. So why does this conversation matter? Like I said, love is important, but love alone does not pay rent or hospital bills. Right? You can't take love to the bank. And there's a common slogan I love using that um, love is sweet, but money makes romance sweet. Right? So love is important, but love does not pay rent or hospital bills. Many couples assume money will somehow work out after the wedding, and they quote scriptures like, "He who finds a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." And the favor is then interpreted to mean things are going to sort themselves out. But that's not what the scripture says. That's not what the scripture preaches, irrespective of whether you heard it from whoever. That's not what that passage is talking about at all. So people think that money will somehow work out itself after the wedding. Financial stress is one of the leading causes of marital conflict. Financial stress is one of the leading causes for marital stress. Uh, and therefore, starting well means planning intentionally. Intentionally, you have to be intentional about it. And intentional means you know what you are doing, you work towards it, you pray towards it, you take actions, you're intentional about it. A strong mindset early, that is when you develop a strong mindset early in the marriage or in the relationship, prevents later regrets. So that's why we'll be looking at, that's why this conversation matters. And of course, we have so many young persons now getting married. When I hear some of planning to get married, some of people getting married, it only tells me how old I am, because when I um, saw them, some of them, the first time I met them, they were adolescents, pretty much less than 9 years old, and some are above 30 now trying to get married. It's interesting. Life happens. All right, so there is this myth of money will come, which I touched upon briefly, but that's not true. Before marriage, both partners should be honest about finances, right? Money will not just come. You must plan, and planning is what shows that you are wise about what you're planning to do, right? And like I mentioned, you must have a structure, because structure will protect the harmony in that home. I will go deep down into all of those things. So I will mention intentional steps and reduces pressure. I'll just mention some things here. Before marriage, both partners should be honest about finances. I wonder what people talk about now during courtship. Um, in my days, I think the only thing we can, apart from Mr. Biggs, then the next thing is Booker. That was the next, Mr. Biggs or Booker. And some of us didn't even have the financial wherewithal for Mr. Biggs. So we, it was, and there was no, GSM was not this popular, right? So you spend time um, going to programs in church, visiting friends, playing games, playing what, asking yourself questions about your extended family. I remember asking my wife then, we hadn't even started courting, but I already started thinking towards marriage. I remember asking her to get me the picture of her parents. And it was going to take about 7 to 9 months for me to finally get it, because she had to send somebody all the way to Akure to go get those stuff. And I'd wanted to see, okay, how this woman that I see that I like now, how will she look like? What's the possibility of how she will look like when she gets older? But these days, I notice that young people don't talk about so much of those things. They lie to each other, they tell each other all the sweet things, and they are not being sincere. Before marriage, you must be open, honest about your finances. Discuss your income, discuss your debts. Are you indebted to Lapo? Have they posted your picture one time and sent images to all of your friends that you are, the way these online people do? Be open about them. Be open about your financial obligations. Have you borrowed money somewhere and you are going to be paying XYZ amount? Be open, and be open about your expectation. This is what I expect of you. And that's what you expect of me. And I and my wife had to do some of those, you know. Um, she expected some things, and I wasn't expecting some of those things. And we had to trash those differences out. I know once we trashed them out, and she knew my expectation, and she knew that some of the things she was expecting, I wasn't willing to do them. She adjusted. I no longer expected them, and that simply meant no conflict. And likewise from my own end. But we're not looking at all of those. We're looking at finances now. What are you expecting from your partner? So as a brother getting married, are you expecting the woman or the sister to be actively involved in carrying out responsibilities at home? As simple as that, this question is, it will surprise you to know that some ladies, typically from, let me not use the word Africa, from Nigeria, there's this tendency of families and ladies to see their male partners as automatic ATMs, to see them as Maybe you are the man of the house, and that simply means you carry every single financial responsibility. So the money for the woman is my money. The money for the man is our money. Discuss those expectations. You have to discuss them. You need to trash. There are certain things that are better trashed before marriage and not in marriage. So you want to trash that. Um, what is the expected? There are some families that once you marry their daughter, you automatically become responsible for her siblings. So they will disturb you for school fees, they disturb you for everything. You want to be open with your conversations, right? So that's why I say discuss your obligations and expectation. This includes student loans if you took any student loan, family responsibilities and informal debts. Discuss all of them. Are there any hidden financial information? Bring them out. Transparency at this point will build trust and unity. So honesty strengthens unity at this stage, right? Now let's look at the 2-year foundation. Like we said from the beginning, early years will shape stability. The first 2 years, most times, begin to give your later years a structure, right? This is the time you should be focusing on growth habits. And even before you get married, focus on growth habits. I tell young people, before you get married, while still courting, know that you are at the beginning of your career. That's even if you've started. And it's very, very encouraged. I encourage it strongly that you should actually start your career before venturing into marriage. Especially for the man, start your career before you actually even venture into it. Right? So I tell young people at that point in time, for instance, I have uh, a distant cousin I'm talking to who is an accountant, and she was fortunate to be working in a very good place. And yeah, she has somebody she's thinking she would want to get married to. Certain things are not too clear. They are still in the talking phase. And I'm like, why not become chartered? I mean, she got another job and she was like, Uncle, should I pick that job or not? I said, okay, let's look at the current job you are in and the one you are going to. Which one will give you the opportunity to actually become chartered fast enough? Because once you get married, your time is no longer solely yours. And in 10 months' time, 1 year time, you have a baby who will not allow you sleep, who will wake up at any point in time and put more strain on you. You want to get chartered now before you get to that point. And why do you want to do that? You want to put yourself in a position where you are, number one, almost indispensable at work. Number two, have higher earning capacity. Then number two, as a man, you are about getting married. Part of what you'll be discussing during your courtship, and if not within the first 2 years, is how do I accelerate my career? I remember when I got into the bank, when we got married, one of the things God helped me to do was accelerate my career. Within the first 4 years, I was already a branch manager. I remember when I was leaving, I had about 4 persons in my branch. Three came to the bank before me, and one came my set. And they found it difficult to call me by name, obviously the Yoruba culture and the Nigerian culture. And that was because I was like 2 grades ahead of them. By 2 years promotion, that would be 4 years ahead of them. And that was because I had a wife who we had discussed ahead of time that, look, I'll be putting this. I'll be putting so much energy into my career right now, such that by the time the children get to a particular age, I would have hit mid-level management. Those are the kind of things you should be doing, right? Not just, I love you, send picture to me, I love you, you're the only coconut in, or is it the only water in my coconut? After all of those things, what next? What courses can you go for? What course can you go for? What program can you go for? Can you learn AI? Can you learn? That's what you should be discussing. Besides the spiritual things, obviously. Again, because money is important, right? Avoid unnecessary pressure. I don't know if I can overemphasize this. Within the first 2 years, avoid unnecessary pressure. Don't live beyond your means. Focus on stability rather than appearance. Build godly habits early, and good habits like saving, budgeting,
Perfect.
communicating, right? You want to do that. Let me, all right, thank you. You want to ensure you do that. Financial discipline early stage makes later years easier, right? These are just general nuggets. We'll go to the, we'll individualize them with time. Right, so let's move to the next slide. Now, the very first practical step I would advise young persons right now is wise housing decisions. Wise housing decisions. Locations affect daily life, and you have to be able to put a balance between comfort and affordability and reduce avoidable expenses as much as possible. You know, when I was planning to um, get my first house, I had a senior mentor in the bank that took me to Yanolobo to go and get a place. I wish I met with somebody like Bro, let's say Bro Makinde before then. Because Bro Tai will always say something like, don't go too far. You know, the money you think you are going to save by going very far, you will eventually spend it, and it just makes a lot of sense. You spend it in transportation and all of that and fixing of your car because of the bar. You need to see the stress of living in that place. If I escape Ojuore traffic, the good old days, um I will enter Songo. If I escape Songo, I will meet in Georgiou. If I escape Georgiou, I will meet in Owode. So when we close from church and I'm rushing, it's not because I'm rushing because I don't want to be social. It's because everybody would have gotten home, had their meal, and had siesta, and I'm still eating gala in Owode traffic. I might have delayed the joy of saying I built my first house 2 years after working. I might have delayed it to 4 years after working and still live in a more decent area that is closer to the basic amenities, right? I remember buying electricity bill, this prepaid meat, something I bought for 1,000 naira. And 6 months down the line, I've not finished spending that 1,000 naira. That's because it's not when you have electricity that the meter will read. So I end up buying the good old days, 2,000 naira every week to buy 20 liters. And before I know what's happening, I built a special room called generator house. I had 3 generators. I have the I pass my neighbor, I have the senior brother of I pass my neighbor and his own senior brother too. And if you look at all the cost of entering deep potholes and everything within the first few years of getting married, it was terrible. wise housing decisions. Again, the middle point there is balance between comfort and affordability. You want to strike a balance. What are the key things you should look for? Where you live affects your finances every single day. If you do the math and you need to pay rent, and the rent in, let's say, somewhere around Obasanjo is going to be 100,000 naira more, it might make sense to do that than go live in, what would I call it now? Somewhere very far, where you be stuck in traffic, you pay transportation and all of that. If you do the math and do the stress on yourself on a young marriage, you see how to look like. Live close to your work if possible. It reduces stress. It reduces cost. Right? And then you have more time together as a couple. I remember as a young man in the bank then, CBN and technology had not developed this much. So we were not scanning checks to CBN. Once people come to pay in their checks, it was T plus two, that's transaction date plus 2 other days before it cleared. Somebody has to physically carry that check. They'll lock it in a bag, and somebody has to physically pack all the branches in Lagos. Somebody has to physically carry that check to 35 Marina. So we used to have routers. So shortly after, the month I got married, I think 2 weeks later, it was my turn to carry that thing. I had to carry my wife along. We'll go to Marina and come back later around 11 o'clock. I just married new bride. It's make I leave and come back 11 o'clock. Right? So your situation may not be exactly like mine, but the point I'm trying to bring out here is, if possible, get an accommodation close to where you live, reduce commute time to give you more time to be together with one another during those early stage, and also cut down on the cost of transportation. We don't talk so much about these things, but they are very important. Consider convenience, safety, and the total cost of living before you choose where to live. Cheap rent far away may actually cost more in the long run, right? You want to consider that. You want to look for other things while you are looking for housing. You want to look for stable utilities. These days, both you and your partner will most likely be working. You want to make things easy for your spouse by living in a place that has close to constant electricity. I know that looks like a dream in Nigeria right now, but there are some places that seemingly have more electricity than others. Would it be better for you to live in such places, or wouldn't it be better for you to look for places around that? It will come at a premium, but that premium will give your wife less stress. You can cook and refrigerate and find a way of, again, these are practical steps, but you need to put it in context with your current financial realities. If you do some other things we'll be mentioning, you might discover that it's possible to do that. If you decide not to have a lavish wedding, you might be able to just pay for a good rent. You might be able to get small solar, 500K, that can charge your freezer, even if it's just freezer and TV and one bulb. You want to look for a way to have stable utilities, Again, so I almost forgot this. For accommodation, about 7 years ago, I had to change the counsel I give to young people when it comes to accommodation. And what I usually would say is save your next month's, your next year's rent. If it is possible, save it before you get married. If you're in SLFC here, look for one trusted uncle and give that person the money if possible. Or just pay your landlord ahead of time. And I'll explain that I've seen that happen a couple of times where you get married, few months into the marriage, say for instance, you get married in January for ease of context, and your rent started reading November or let's say October. So you're already 2 months in as of January when you got married. By October, your new rent will be due. At around that time, if you don't have any delay in delivery, your wife will be put into bed. So you have bills for baby delivery. You have rent coming in, and you most likely want to have a coma, naming ceremony, all coming in at the same time. We don't discuss this most times, but these are the beginnings of pressure. Of course, we'll look for our medical people to come and tell us, to come and tell our young people. There's a case I'm handling right now where it looked like the lady is behaving differently. And they discovered that it was, I've forgotten if somebody knows the term, when sisters get like depression or mood swing after postmortems, or I don't know what they call it, right? And the brother did not want to understand that. But we'll discuss that later on. Money on its own can cause trouble within that time, because it's not just that I've given birth and that I have a child, it is baby formula and many other things, why your rent is piling up on it again. So if it's possible, you want to get that out of the way where it is possible. And if you need to shift your wedding for 2 months before, so to make that possible, again, I would advise you do that. Right? So if you can't do that, then begin saving for your next rent as soon as possible. Divide the rent into 10, not 12, to give yourself some gap, and start saving for it instantly. Start saving for it instantly. You must do that, right? So, utilities, you want to consider utilities. Where you are living, will you have constant power supply? How easy is it to access it by road and all of that? Of course, you have to be consistent in your planning and also improving it as time goes on. Yeah, I've mentioned rent, so let's move on. Now let's go into health. We don't say this so much in Nigeria, but it's becoming something we need to talk about. And as Christians, there's this notion that healing in Jesus' name and everything. Yes, that's true. But there's also mosquito. There's also poor ventilation. There's also poor hygiene, and all of those things. Plan for routine, unexpected care. And one way people do it is by having some form of insurance coverage. Right? So if you're in your place of work and they have insurance coverage, take it, add your wife to it. If it's the wife, add your husband to it. So all those small things like malaria and some other things, you can benefit from those things without spending money from your pocket. Many people take it for granted. I mean, if you want to take medication for typhoid, which is common, or malaria, you know how much it will cost. Now, if you are AA, you might treat it close to half a dozen times before the year ends. Sum that up to whatever meager salary most young people usually start with, and you see what that could do to your finances. So plan for routine, unexpected healthcare, right? Aside that, you also want to plan for childbirth. Many people don't talk about this too when it comes to preparing for the first 2 years of marriage. You expect childbirth. And though I don't have the statistics, but if I'm to take what AI will put out, there's an upward of about 20% of one sort of complications or the other at childbirth. And those complications will only increase the cost. Now, if you have some SLA organizations where, let's say, you have some health insurance, they may not, I've forgotten that, what they call that particular, the HMO. Some of the HMO may not cover childbirth. But if they do, fine. If they don't, it means you have to pay out of pocket. Plan for it. Even though we trust God that our sisters will give birth like the Hebrew children, plan for it. Right? It could be something as I'm not saying it is simple, but in the sense simple, but it could be something as simple as um pregnancy induced hypertension that may need you to visit, more frequently, and that could mean extra cost. You want to plan towards it. I don't know if anybody can put in the chat how much right now is an average childbirth in a private hospital in Nigeria, and how much will it be if it needs to be via CS? Can somebody put in the chat box? I just want to say, let's assume you are not going to general, it's just an average hospital. What would be the cost for delivery? Then if it's CS, so above 200K for normal childbirth. What if it's for CS? Yeah, CS should be getting close to 1M then. Right? So whichever the case, you need to prepare for that also. Now, this is not to, for CS around 500 to 600K. Okay, thank you. So this is not to scare anybody. Medicare CS is 600K. Fine. Now, this is not to scare anybody. Of course, I believe if you're in Shining Light, we have elderly people there, we have the medical team, and we have many women who be interested in young people who are pregnant and will tell you about antenatal and all of that. And if you are not, whichever church you are in, I believe they should have such things. But you want to prepare ahead. Again, this is money. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, you will see in subsequent slide, is that there is this, this drive and craze about the wedding is my special day, and I have to make it so big. And then you spend so much on a ceremony that you start your family in indebtedness. And it's difficult to dig out from debt. When you know that these are the things that I'll most likely need to save towards and most likely need to prepare towards, it brings some structure into your head. It brings some structure into your head and how you plan. Now, most people will say, it's not my portion. What if you need to undergo CS? What if you need to? So plan towards it. If it doesn't happen, it's extra savings you've made for yourself. You might not have the money right now, but you could plan towards it. Now, if you notice, if you put those two things side by side, and put childbirth and say naming ceremony together, you are looking at two capital intensive events. That is childbirth and naming on the one hand, and rent on the other hand. You are looking at two capital intensive events. In fact, for most young people, rent is the most expensive thing they venture into, right? It takes the chunk out of their earnings. I would counsel that you sort one out of these two before you even get married. Sort it out somewhere. If it's rent is easier because you can just pay it to the landlord and then you are done with it. And then you save towards the other one gradually. You don't want to start your first 2 years leaning on other people for so many things about your family. You don't want to do that. I'm not saying you can't eventually, but let it be that you've put in your best, right? Let it be that you've put in your best. Everybody's got one form of burden or the other to carry in their own life. So medical preparation is part of responsible family planning. Medical preparation is part of responsible family planning, and people don't talk about it. In fact, it's getting to a point where if you know you need to get married and you can't have some of those things, you find a way to delay having a child, say for 1 year, so you could sort some things before proceeding. Again, you don't owe anybody an explanation as to it's 12 months, how come we've not seen anything? It is your duty as man and woman coming together to get married to plan your family. And don't let the comments of other people plan it for you. If you need to delay childbirth, if you think delaying it for 1 year to stabilize certain things is what you need to do, discuss with your doctor. We have medical people amongst us. Discuss with them, hear their view. And you could start discussing this even before getting married. It's not a thing to discuss those things. Yeah, I've mentioned planning for children. Babies bring joy, but also financial responsibility. How much is one gongoni or agolo of Cerelac now? Hmm? Expenses include hospital deposits, clothes, diapers, other items. A dedicated savings and savings fund will prevent financial shock. One of the things I've come to learn, or one of the things I observe, is people saving but not tying it to something. Yes, it's good to save, but it's also good to tie it to something. It helps you know if you are saving enough, and if it also helps motivate you to upgrade your earning. So if you know ahead of time that I will need 100,000 for something in 2 months' time, and what I can save from my salary is 50,000, or rather what I need to save from my salary to meet the 100,000 is 50,000, but what I can save now is 30,000. It does two things for you. Number one, you revalue what you are saving for. Can I do it with 60? Or would I necessarily need 100? If I need 100, how can I begin to upgrade myself? What do I need to cut down from my spendings? What do I need? How do I upgrade my earnings? How do I develop myself? How do I earn more? And like we said during the last meeting, don't limit yourself to water. If all your friends are in water, you begin to look local. There are young people in Lagos, there are young people elsewhere getting involved in IT, getting involved in AI, getting involved in other things, and earning hundreds of thousands within their first 2 years of graduation. Don't get stuck in tempo. Don't get stuck in tow aluminium. Don't get stuck. Push. Get out of your comfort zone. Again, if your plan for finance is God will provide, you won't think that way. God will provide, but He's giving us the ability to think. Planning shows wisdom, not lack of faith. Right? Yep, let's move on. Now, the next big thing that causes a lot of discomfort and can crumble a family, or at least strain it at its infant stage, is family expectations. And this is one thing that we rarely discuss when people are going into courtship. Extended family responsibilities may arise. How do you plan for them wisely and respectfully? In many African cultures, marriage connects families financially. In many African cultures, I remember as a very young man, I and some of my friends, brothers, will sit down. I will say, okay, let's discuss our future. And why discuss our future? Say, okay, Holy Spirit is not talking here. Holy Spirit is not talking here. We are just gisting with our brain. Oh. And I saw many of them saying, I don't want to marry a sister who is firstborn. And as I dug deeper, I discovered that it was born out of the fear of carrying responsibilities. And those usually come from brothers who are also firstborns. That doesn't mean God cannot lead you to a firstborn. But the point is that these are topics you should be discussing during courtship. And if you didn't discuss it and you're already married, discuss them now. Relatives may occasionally request for support, and this reality should be acknowledged and acknowledged early in life. And both parties must help the family to grow. Don't put your husband under undue pressure to please your former family, because you've now created a new family. So when you say, you're not doing anything for my family, you're not doing anything for my family, like a family I was counseling recently, and the sister was like, he doesn't do anything for my family. I'm like, which family are you referring to? Which one? Your father's family or your mommy's family or your own family? Okay, you people are newly married, so you are not used to the language yet. This is your own family. That one is your mama's family. Oh. This is your own family now. So you want to put your husband under stress and kill him with IBP to please your own father. I understand the fact that you need to step up for your family. But why should it be your husband doing that? Why, if it is easy, why not go and earn the 500,000 naira salary too? And then also support. Why should you be earning 50,000 and want him to use his 400,000 to solve all the problems in the world? Upgrade yourself too to 400. And you both now have 800, and you can now solve more things. But if you can't, then sit down and discuss it. But our advice, even before marriage, start discussing such things. That doesn't mean you will not be flexible as life throws things at you. But I don't see many young people discussing those things. They don't discuss it. What's your family? How will you treat your family? I'm the first of 5 children. And my wife knew that, look, this man has 2 other persons need to take care of. In fact, I practically paid the school fees for one of my siblings from throughout her HND and everything, and from IT, she came to Ota to do the IT and everything. It was my responsibility, and my wife was in the picture. She was in the know. So we had to cut our coats according to our cloth for that period. But it was a mutual thing, right? So you want to look at extended family responsibilities, and these are the things you should discuss even before. Remember when we said you should discuss some of your before marriage, you should discuss some of the things, some of the when we mention LAPO, it's not only LAPO. If you are indebted to somebody, it could be your dad, you've promised him, I'm going to train the last born. Let your wife in the picture. Or if it is the other way, let your husband to be. Bring that person into the picture and plan it out. Couples should discuss expectations openly. Agreements prevent misunderstandings later. Agreements prevent misunderstanding later. Don't assume that this person is coming from the same background that you came from. Don't assume it at all. In fact, maybe at another time, we'll discuss questions you should ask your spouse before getting married. One key one I asked is, are you from a polygamous home? And many other
Yes,
questions. You want to ask those questions, right? Now, these boundaries will help protect the marriage relationship. I'm looking at visitors coming to the home now. You want to set healthy boundaries within the first 2 years. If you are the firstborn, where all your siblings are living with you already, and you are the man, for instance, and then you are going to get married, and the woman will be coming to that same house. Discuss it. Discuss it. It's not that after she comes and she begins to show some sign of, look, I don't want this people to stay. Say that she is not she didn't go anymore. She is not welcoming and all of that. Discuss it. Why? Because visitors will affect resources. I didn't understand. I had an understanding of that, but I didn't understand it the way I do now until I moved to the Western world. You see, if one person comes to visit you for extra 1 week, what it simply means that they will burn more, they will use more water. If you use microwave, more time on the microwave. And if they are Nigerians are unique people. We come from a tropical area, so we are used to bathing every day. So even when people come to, colder areas, they feel dirty if they did not take their bath. So and we here, we're already used to when it's very cold, you bathe once in 2 days, sometimes, because, you are not sweating. So, more water. And what it would automatically translate to what? More bills. Obviously, more mouths to feed also. Now, imagine bringing somebody into your home, an external person coming to an extended family visiting you. You want to also discuss that. You're not discussing it because they are just external. You're discussing because of the financial implication. Remember, we are focusing on finance in our talk today. Visitors affect resources. Couples should agree on a reasonable amount for family support. And you should also discuss your type of account. There are some couples who believe that either party should have separate accounts and then pay certain fixed amount or percentage into a mutual account from where household responsibilities can now be catered for. Discuss it. It doesn't mean because you discuss it, that's how you do for the whole of your life. The point is that you are laying a foundation of talking about money matters. So 2 months ago, there was a trend on Facebook and TikTok where husbands will carry their whole salary and just give it to the wife. So you've been disturbing me, so this is my salary. Once this alert come, you just see the alert to pack the salary, give to the woman, and then the husband will relax. When he's going to work, say, please, I need honey, I need money for fuel, and collect from the wife. So at the next month, the husband transferred the money again to the woman. The woman came and said, no, 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 hold your money. Hold your money, please. Anything you want to be doing with you, just hold it. I'm okay. I now understand. Right? And that's because the woman keeps demanding and demanding, and the man keeps saying, I don't have this, my salary, but she's unable to understand how 200 or 300 will finish in a month. But when she had the opportunity to handle it herself and see that, look, we even spend more than that in a month, and I don't know where this man is getting the money from. She now appreciates the husband better. But the idea here is talk about it. In my home, for instance, I'm the philanthropist. Um, it, so long I hear there's trouble, my body will be doing me that just spend the money, spend the money, spend the money. So I discovered that after we got married, even though I know about saving, but I couldn't save as much as I wanted to. And my wife is the use the ruler to cut the yam type of person. So what we did was that we swapped ATMs. I gave her my ATM and I held hers. And in typical Raji manner, I'll finish that money in like 4 days. It's gone. But then I have to apply to get money from my own account. But what did that do? It stabilized the family. We had some savings, we had some confidence in some of the savings we had, and then we could start thinking of what can we do with this extra money we have saved, right? So that is part of what I'm talking about. You discuss some of those things. And that doesn't mean that because you've said it, then it ends there. You cannot adjust. You could always adjust, but discuss it. Talk about that money matter. Now, talk about visits. Would you want external persons coming to your house? How long should they stay if they are to come? Talk about them. Don't assume the other party knows. Again, every external person that comes with a responsibility. So I have a junior friend who said, within the first 2 years of my marriage, nobody is coming to visit me. If they tell me they want to come and visit, I will calculate. By the way, when they come out, I'll most likely pay their transport, pay some other things. I will just calculate the transport they're supposed to use to and fro, add something a little, and send to them. Stay where you are. I've sent the money to you. What I've done is that I've saved myself the cost of transportation to and fro, feeding you, and then now adding extra money again just for that time. Again, discuss it with your family, discuss it with your spouse. As simple as that may sound, it can affect marriage and cause tension and cause resentment, right? Let's begin to round up. A structured system improves financial clarity. Again, I've mentioned personal flexibility there, but you also want to discuss shared responsibilities. I will vote for shared responsibilities, meaning that because you are the man of the house, doesn't mean everything falls on you. But then, how would you do it? Again, it makes more sense coming to a Western world. When you read books on budgeting and many other things, and you stay in Nigeria, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you come to a place where every single thing is built and built to the last unit, some things begin to make sense. So in the Western world here, um, some families contribute because husband and wife may most likely be earning something similar. Some families contribute fixed amount or fixed percentage into an account, and that's where every other expenditure happens. And the reason is so that I still want to have some level of privacy as to what I do with my money. Yeah, I know we are married, but I still want to, just spend money on ice cream without feeling like I'm touching the family's money, or send some money to a distant cousin I haven't seen in donkey years without having to go through the hassle of discussing it. That's how some people behave. In my own home, for instance, I pay the rent, which is the biggest thing you pay. My wife caters for, we're buying tomato, we're buying for everything. So eventually, she ends up having more savings than I would from my um, earnings. But again, we've built it that anybody's money is anybody's money. That saving, if I need it, I demand for it and we use it for something else. Now, but there are also families here that once the husband knows that this is what the wife is earning, until that money finish, he will not add anything. So if the man say, I need to go for shop, he say, so Eloloku, oh, sorry, how much is left in your account? Until that money finishes, the man is not going to add something extra on it. If that's the type of husband you have or spouse you have, it may be difficult for you to know that before marriage. Then you might need to sit down and recalibrate again. But the idea is this: if you started by talking about it, it becomes easier to dust off that folder, bring it up, and talk about it again. You need to start talking about it, right? And having that structure reduces arguments about spendings and all of that. You'll be surprised how lack of money will suddenly make that person you feel you love feel like a monster when issues start coming up. So budgeting helps couples control money instead of money controlling them. Um, and when I talk about small, consistent steps here, I mean by writing down, say for instance, before you get married, if you are not used to budgeting, you most likely not get used to it, or you struggle to get used to it when you get married. And if you're already married and you are in it, you have to also work towards it. So what it means is that know exactly what comes into your account. Note down every penny you spend. Note it down. Every penny you spend. Note it down. Watch it over 3 months. Sit down and look at the pattern. There might be some you need to write off. I think I'm spending too much. I think we're spending too much on Kilimanjaro. I think we're spending too much on this. Cut some of those excesses down, right? Yep, let's begin to round up. Save consistently. Emergency preparation, prepare, of course, save consistently and prepare for um, those emergency. Right. So I think I'm going to wrap up. Wedding perspective. Hmm. This is a big one, especially for our sisters, because I don't know who sowed that seed that your wedding is your day. I'm wondering. And there are so many theories around it. I don't know when I was born. I don't know when I'm going to die, but at least I know my wedding day. Yes, it's true. But you can do 1 year anniversary and do it in a big way. You can do 5 years anniversary and do it in a big way. Your wedding doesn't have to be massive if you cannot afford it. And it is irresponsibility to burden others on your wedding day. It's a sign of irresponsibility to assume that others will carry your burden, and therefore you go and create a gigantic burden for others is a sign of irresponsibility. Starting that way, if you don't correct it early, is a sign that you keep putting burdens on others. If your wedding can be a church blessing between pastor, few elders, and one or two people, do it that way. Like we say, you can wed on Thursday because Wednesday means wed next day. Like some people will say, do it on Thursday. Simple. Don't do things because people are doing it. When I was growing up, I noticed one particular shade of clothes. When my mom prepares amala or prepares pounded yam, she'll put it inside one. There's one particular plate they used to use those days that when it falls, it will scatter one kind to peel off. She'll now wrap it, that food, in that particular my dad's clothes. Later on, as I grew up, I discovered it's called a show. Okay, wrap it, then now wrap it again inside clean towel and put it in the center of the bed. That was the warmer. I never saw my dad wearing that clothes. So when it was time for me to get married, one of my aunts said I need to go and sew asoke, and they went all the way to Agbara to price it. That thing was very expensive, and I was going to do top and down and do one cap, something, something. And I asked them, why am I spending this much on asoke? They said, that's how they used to say, yes, it is they that used to do it. Me, I'm not doing it that way. I sold a simple cloth, and believe you me, I still wore that cloth that I used for my wedding. The cloth for my wedding, I still wore it 2 years ago. My wife's wedding dress was made out of lace. And we did it in such a way that you can detach some of the plenty flying things. So after she finished using it and had the first child, the skirt was no longer sizing her. She gave it to my younger sister, who used it and gave it to her own younger sister. So 3 people used that lace. And the clothes I say I'm still using, my wife still has her own too, because it was a wrapper, so she's still a size and buba. And we are still wearing it. And I'm sure as I'm saying this now, some people are here who attended our wedding. They've even forgotten the color of the clothes. In fact, some people have forgotten whether they ate in my wedding or not. So keep it short and simple. If it's possible to invite people, invite the ones you can invite. Beg other people. Do plenty zobo, kuno, and biscuits. Share in church on Sunday and let everybody go home. It doesn't have to be this big something, right? Wedding lasts only one day, but marriage lasts a lifetime. Starting marriage with heavy debt creates unnecessary pressure. I remember one of my friends, he wedded in Kaduna, and he invited us to come from Bauchi. We were still in school then, for his wedding in Kaduna. And when we came, we told him we couldn't come. He told us that, don't worry, when you come, pay for your transport. So I'll pay for your transport through. So we came with a bus. The bus stayed with us. I was going to go with us the following day. It was time for husband and wife to dance. This brother was dancing. He will invite the usher. How much have we collected? They will tell him. He will tell the DJ to keep playing. He was hoping that he will get plenty money spread on him on his wedding day to pay for our transport. I mean, how will you start your marriage in debt? It doesn't make sense, right? So marriage is long-term. Balance celebration with wisdom. Focus on long-term well-being, not that particular day. Plan early for your wedding. Don't say it's going to happen in 3 months. Plan early for it. If you know who you are going to get married to a year before, save consistently for that something. And of course, communicate openly. Right? So as we wrap up, now find a strong foundation support lasting unity, and the wisdom you apply to your home today will support peace tomorrow. So I want to stop here. We've spoken about planning for accommodation, choosing your house properly, saving, and if possible, paying for your rent upfront, preparing for childbirth, planning how you're going to save together as a couple and how you're going to spend together as a couple. Think of what you will do with extended family members. Discuss it, argue over it, get seniors involved if possible at that early stage, resolve the matter, and then move on. Don't jump in blindly. This issue of I don't want to fornicate, that's why I'm going into it unadvisedly. Well, when you get in, you discover that as a married person, sometimes 1 month you've not had sex with your wife. 2 weeks you've not had sex with your wife. Not because you don't want to. All of you are busy pushing a lot of things. And all of a sudden, you discover that your reason for jumping all these important points was not that important. Well, it's important, but not that important after all. So take your time, look for godly counsel. We have many people in church, elders, senior sisters who will be willing to give you counsel. Seek those counsels and don't jump in unadvisedly, irrespective of what anybody is saying.